Well, we're here. Monday Night Football. What's going on? What's going on, YouTube? We got some special guests here for you guys um, from two opposing sides of the spectrum on the game tonight. Hopefully, first and foremost, everybody's doing good. You guys are in good graces. I know that we are. It's what is it? Monday, December 18th, 2023. It's about 4 o'clock West Coast time. So my first guest, you guys all know me. I'm Zach. What's going on? My first guest I'll bring out, of course, is my co-host Steve in the top right over there. Looks like he got disconnected, but he'll be back. He's in his nice Seahawk gear. I think he got a Cam Chancellor jersey on. He was rocking. So my second guest that we're bringing on, first timer to the show, by way of California, by way of Philadelphia. So we're going to bring on some good hometown Philly opinions. My first time actually talking to a Philly fan was this fella right here. They're mythical creatures. So we're happy to bring on my good brother Kyle. What's going on, bro? How you doing?
Hey, what's going on, man? I'm doing well. Excited about tonight. I've been keeping an eye on the line. Looks like we're at -4 for the Eagles.
What?
So
I thought it was +3.
Yeah. Nah, I think it opened at -4.5, and then it went down to 3 when they said Jalen Hurts, was going to have his illness. And my cousin just hit me up. I was going to ask you guys if you heard anything, but I heard that Geno Smith is going to play tonight. Is that true?
Yep, I just heard it. I'll pause 1 second. We'll bring on another great guest. I'll give him his intro. See, this is how fancy this mug is right here. Like, he got to show up fashionably late just so we can make sure that we give him a red carpet introduction. So I want to make sure, YouTube, we give our good brother Navarre that will give us all the insights on the Seahawks tonight. Anything too crazy. I want to show you guys something. This is the last time that the Eagles beat the Seahawks.
Let's go to Seattle. Seneca Wallace starting again for the injured Matt Hasselbeck, who says he should not be out for the season. Donovan McNabb and the Eagles needing this win to keep pace with the Giants atop the NFC East. Seneca Wallace, first offensive play, and it's Corn Robinson free. 90-yard touchdown for Seattle. Longest pass for a touchdown in franchise history, and it's Seneca Wallace to Corn Robinson, and the Seahawks would punt 11 straight times after it. It's a true story. Wow. Here's Brent Selleck, no relation to
Tom?
No. Mark Selleck of NFL Network. 27 yards, 3 plays later. McNabb to Deshaun Jackson, 14 yards. Setting up the Eagles.
Get down, little fella.
On the 22 of the Seahawks. Very next play, McNabb finishes off the drive. Well, actually, Reggie Brown does with the nice move.
He ran a nice corner comeback route on that play.
Andy Reid, is that a fist bump slash?
Yeah.
I think both were sort of caught up right there. Next possession for the Eagles. Kevin Curtis, nice move.
Nice having him back healthy again.
Down to the 1. And McNabb to Todd Harriman's, the Eagles' first touchdown by an interior lineman in 74 years.
74.
74?
It's all working in Philadelphia right now. Third quarter, McNabb again to Brent Selleck, no relation.
Tom?
No, Mark Selleck of NFL Network. Led to one of 4 David Aker field goals. To the fourth quarter now we go. Seneca Wallace, like I said, 11 straight punts for the Seahawks after that touchdown to start. Eagles are 5-3, and Mike Holmgren in his final year is now.
Hold on, I gotta say something, and I think Kyle will appreciate this. No more shine box, Kyle. We don't have a shine box anymore. It's been a long time.
No,
since I've had
like. I can personally speak on being at the playoff game on January 5th, 2020. That was I believe that was the one where
Kay McNown?
No, Kay McNown or Russell Wilson. Was that his last year in Seattle? Or one of his last years in Seattle?
It was
one of his last
years. is we knocked Wentz out. Clowney did, and then McCown
Right.
came in there.
Yeah, I was at that playoff game, and it was like watching a slow death from the minute Wentz got injured to the end of the game. Oh man, and I don't remember if we scored late in that game, but I felt like we were down 2 touchdowns the entire time. I'm actually kind of shocked to see that the score was only 17-9.
That was the last time, though, that the Seahawks lost to the Eagles. That was before the Pete Carroll era. Pete Carroll has been 7-0.
No, this was dead. This is when Seattle came in as a wild card, and Eagles, I believe, won the division, and Seattle just dominated us the whole game.
Yeah, you guys took a guy named Ortega-Whiteside, and we took a guy named DeCalen.
I can't believe you remember that. I thought that only a Philadelphia fan would remember something that painful, to be honest with you. I'm shocked. I mean, I talk about that till I'm blue in the face. I mean, obviously we got Devontae Smith, which kind of right the ship a little bit, and then we got AJ Brown. But
nice.
I mean, I love Metcalf when he was at Ole Miss. I mean, that guy. I think it was him and AJ Brown were there together, right?
They were with Matty Corral.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that's right. He was the QB. Matty Corral was, huh?
That's why his stock went up.
We haven't heard of him since, man.
Yeah, bro. We could all throw passes on this call to those two. No problem.
Right.
So I got some stats here. I'll just start running off some of the stats that we wrote down. If you guys want to cover some cannabis news, I got some of that too, but I figured it's Monday night. We'll get into some of the good stuff, right? So Seahawks overall are 12-7 throughout the duration of their NFL history against the Eagles. Right now, the Eagles are 10-3. Seattle is 6-7, of course, in Week 15. Last time they beat them was 11-2 of 08, 26-7. That clip we just watched. Seattle won the last 6 meetings. Seattle has held the Eagles to under 17 points the last 16 games. Philadelphia has a 2-game losing streak going into this, and of course, we know Seattle is working on their 4th game that they've been on the losing skid right now too. Monday Night Football record for the Seahawks is the greatest of all time in NFL history. 29-12. They have a 70.7% winning percentage on Monday Night Football. So as we know, this game just got flexed from Sunday afternoon or evening to now being on Monday. So the stats are in the favor of the Seahawks when it comes to winning percentage, especially for Pete Carroll. Pete Carroll is 13-4 on Monday Night Football. He's also 7-0 against the Eagles as the Seattle coach, like we said. The Eagles' defense is coming off of 75 points, given up the last 2 games. The Eagles' defense is 31st in the NFL over the last 6 games. And Sean Desai has been removed from the play calling for Matt Patricia, sounds like. And I believe they moved him up to the booth. I'll let you talk about that in a minute, Kyle.
That blows my mind.
Darius Slay looks like he's out. DK has 4 touchdowns in the last 2 games, and he's going up against the rookie Keely Ringo, who's also shout out to Bellarmine Prep. He went there as a freshman in Tacoma before going to Arizona for his other 3 years in high school. Seattle never lost 4 in a row since Pete has been the head coach. 3rd down efficiency. This is the craziest stat that I've seen out of all of this, though. So the Eagles, let's talk about them first. They allow 48.7% on defense from 3rd down conversions, which is the last in the NFL right now. Seahawks ain't too far from them. They're 30th in this. They're at 45.75. So there's going to be a lot of conversions. So then on the offensive side of the ball, when you're looking at 3rd down, Seahawks are at 33.3, which is 27th for the NFL. And the Eagles, this is where they get their advantage at. They're 47.6, which is 3rd in the NFL on converting 3rd down. I'll go ahead and go to our guest, Kyle. After spilling all that, man, what's your thoughts, bro?
Oh, I mean, I think that this makes me nervous, this game, obviously. I mean, let me back up for a second. Darius Slay not playing, he's been extremely disappointing against guys that are like a DK Metcalf. Anyone that's a physical receiver, if you watched him against the Niners when he played against Deebo Samuel, when a wide receiver has a lot more size than he has, it's not necessarily how well Darius Slay can cover him down the field. It's when the guy catches the ball and Darius Slay has to tackle that individual one-on-one. So I'm hoping that now getting someone in, that's going to be maybe young and maybe a little bit more physical, that's the only thing I can look at as a potential bright spot for what the Eagles can produce tonight. A lot of people, are saying in Philadelphia right now that Darius Slay took this surgery prematurely. I don't know if you have any background on what's going on with him, but he ended up getting a knee surgery on Friday, and they're saying that he could have easily, waited till the end of the season to get that taken care of. And the rumors in Philadelphia are that, this is kind of signs pointing towards him having his last year with the Philadelphia Eagles. And same thing with Bradbury on the other side. A lot of rumors are that he will also be leaving the Eagles after this year. I think that what kills me about, what their defense is doing right now is I can't even name the last time they had an interception. No, if Darius Slay's I can't, off the top of my head, I can't remember. I heard that Blankenship may have had one like 3 or 4 games ago.
Damn.
But, it's been a while. And like I mentioned, I was at that Dallas game last week, which was just, obviously a shellacking. But, the NFL, in my opinion, they put
break it up.
Yeah. I don't want to do all the talking. I do apologize, but I do have.
Oh no, we're listening. No, we're just talking about that Cowboy. We wasn't gonna bring it up, dog. We was
gonna say nothing.
Right. Well, I was going to mention that. So I've gone to Dallas in the past, and I was saying before we jumped on this call, it was the first time I saw the Cowboys fans getting rambunctious. Literally, they were giving me a lot of shit where, never had that in the past. I mean, I've been to Dallas before where the Eagles had lost to the Cowboys and a lady outside the stadium apologized for beating us. And it wasn't like her being facetious. It was like literally, she was like, "I'm sorry we beat you guys. You only had your backup quarterback and it wasn't fair that we won." This year, totally different story. I mean, people were coming up to me ad nauseum, just talking crazy shit to me. But, I get it. As an Eagles fan, we deserve a little bit when we go into someone else's stadium. But, I told them all that, I said this very confidently. I was like, the Cowboys are going to lose every game for the rest of the season. And they pop. So I was like, look, you could take this victory. I know that you're going to get smoked, the following week in Buffalo. And I have a feeling that they're just going to be the Cowboys that they always are. And they're just going to shit the bed for the remainder of the year. If they get into the playoffs, they're not going to be a threat in the playoffs. I have no faith in that team. The team that I think that we all have to worry about is the 49ers.
Yep, I agree.
I tell Kyle, I tell Zach this at least once a month, man. We've been friends since 2006. I tell him at least once a month, I hope Jerry Jones lives forever. Please keep that man alive for as long as possible. Please, whatever you got to do, just keep him alive.
Oh, no, I agree. And I'll tell you something I noticed at the stadium, which really threw me back, because we mentioned about having some updates on the cannabis space. Well, I feel like Texas, to me, is probably the place I feel most nervous with any cannabis product by far, out of every place I travel in the country. I just do. I mean, I feel like they really hate it. And, I feel like – yeah, I'll tell you what, when I was getting on the flight back to Los Angeles, they had 5 U.S. Marshals in the terminal waiting for people to get on the plane going back to Los Angeles.
What?
Yeah, and I'd never seen a U.S. Marshal in a tunnel getting on a plane throughout my whole life of traveling. So I was really taken back. They had 5 U.S. Marshals that were in there checking bags for all the people that are going to Los Angeles that day.
That is good to know.
What's funny, bro, is that's actually the perfect segue before I ask these two about their Seahawks opinions on this. That's actually a topic that I just wrote down before we started. The number one thing was that came up about cannabis news was actually the TSA gave just a weird update. It really was the same stance that they've taken traditionally. I didn't really see too much of an update on their policy, but just another reminder that they put out. This is from thehill.com. Came out this afternoon. It says the headliner was, "Can TSA stop you for cannabis in your luggage?" And they reiterated that you can bring 0.3% of THC of dry weight on your carry-on or your luggage bag. That's it, 0.3%. TSA is required to report what they find to local law enforcement. So they're not looking for anything, but if they find something, they're required to be able to report it to local law enforcement. But TSA, after this report came out, they responded and said their main focus is to be as safe as possible and make a safe experience for their passengers. They're not mainly looking to enforce the prohibition of cannabis, but if they come across it, they come across it. So that kind of actually fills into kind of the strangers that you're seeing with those marshals too, with this posting that came out this afternoon.
Right, and what I was going to say also is what I found interesting was at AT&T Stadium, they have an area to the left of the stadium. It's called CBD in Kratom Valley. And I'm like, dude, how the fuck do you hate weed this much? But you have a sponsorship of like a little area where you can go get a drink outside AT&T Stadium. And it says Kratom. It says CBD in Kratom Valley, sponsored by CBD companies and Kratom companies, which just blows my fucking mind, man. To say the least.
That's why they're doing it, because they're getting that bag from them. Yeah, they're getting the bag from them first.
Oh man!
Wow. That's crazy, man. I don't know of any other professional stadiums that have that right now, of my knowledge. You know what I mean? That have a setup like that for like even CBD products or Kratom. I know Kratom is a booming deal in Texas area.
Yeah. It's a Schedule 1 drug. 100%. I can't figure out why it's going bananas. And then Matthew Perry just OD'd on that. Let me tell you what. Never met a soul in my life that OD'd on weed. If you find something, bring it.
I thought Kratom was so popular because it was being used by. I thought it engaged the same receptors in your brain that heroin did, and therefore it could be used to,
depression. There's a lot of clinical trials going on for depression and Kratom use, and same with the mushroom and microdosing, same type of concept. But I do know I'm pretty sure it's a Schedule 1 drug last time I read, and I've never tried it. But it is interesting that they would promote that. I mean, I have a lot of family in Texas. I go to Texas quite a bit in the southern part of the state, and I would never bring anything with me. There's no product out there that's worth that in that state.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I won't say if I have or haven't, but prior to this conversation, I will tell you right now, I probably would have flown right through there. After this conversation, I probably won't do that. Probably won't do that.
Yeah. Well,
I've never seen a Marshall before, so
I didn't see one. And now, Kelly, I'm no bullshit. I saw 5. I saw 3 when I first got to the middle part of the terminal, and then 2 right before I got onto the plane. And they were literally searching young people's bags. I think it might have been like, and it was like guys that were probably like in their mid-20s. Again, I had no idea what they were doing, but I just saw that with my own 2 eyes. I was like,
those guys are
I never saw anything like that. Yeah, I never saw anything like that. Right.
Yeah.
And I tell you what, like if I've seen some, I've heard of some horror stories. Like people are still getting bagged for like felonies of vape cart pens in certain parts of Texas. You know what I'm saying? Like they have to go and pay flying from whatever state that they're legal from back to Texas to pay those fees. What state that's I guess not really bordering, but close nearby. I was reading another article. Shout out to the MJ Biz Daily about this one. Arizona, their cannabis market just exceeded $1 billion for the first 9 months of the year so far, from their report that came out. They don't know what the rest of the ending stats are going to be, but wow, a volcano just erupted in Iceland too just now. Holy shit! All right.
Shit, Patrick's over there.
So check these stats out. The med sales, 267 million in medical sales. Rec sales are 797 million. Since 2021, Arizona sales for med and rec, since it's been legalized in rec, $4 billion. But here's the kicker, is that during the spring, around May to April, a drastic drop in sales. So there was about a $10 million drop overall across the state. It went from about 90 million to about $82 million month over month, and it was losing month over month in the spring. So a lot of operators completely backed out. They got completely out of Arizona and just shut down their operations. So since then, that's when the uptick has started. So all these operators that made it through that attrition process in the spring really profited throughout the fall, because it was less dispensaries, more people shopping, and less competition. So they maximized on that. So the guys that were still landing after spring, they made it through. You guys got any thoughts on that at all?
Yeah, man, I was fortunate enough to spend a week there last year for the Super Bowl with my company, and I was pretty impressed by the level of sophistication that they had in that state. Usually when a state rolls out, like, we won't mention any names, Connecticut, it's slower and the prices are all off. And the technology just really isn't there. No, man, Arizona caught up to everybody. Tech-wise, they're still a little bit behind on pricing. I remember being a little shelf-shocked when I went into a few of the stores down there. But the weed wasn't bad. It's close enough to the West Coast, man. It wasn't bad. I know that's a pay-to-play market. They don't dole out licenses anymore. You're going to have to find somebody and play that game, shake them down, try to take their license from them, buy it. But I love that market. I think Arizona is going to be a great cannabis market, and I think it'll mature well, and I think it'll be on an upward trajectory. They just got to get them prices knocked down a little bit.
And Steve, did you stay at the Consumption Lounge Hotel, the one that they have, or like it was sponsored by a bunch of cannabis companies?
We went there.
Mm-hmm.
and I was there, showing my stuff, and what I had. So I was more trying. We were thinking about coming to the company that I'm with, coming to Arizona and starting a processing center, and I just remember thinking, this product's not bad. I'm a bit of a snob when I come to a new state, and I just thought, wow, their sophistication's, it's there. And yeah, man, that lounge was awesome. I watched the UFC fights over there. That was a great week, man. I had a blast over there in Scottsdale.
Yeah, I was there last year as well.
Nice.
And I went to the Eagles. The Eagles Super Bowl loss to the Chiefs, which I guess we could probably get into eventually, but I don't want to get too emotional in the beginning of this call, because we got to keep our heads straight.
Kyle, the last time I was there, I had to see Malcolm Butler about 100 feet away from me steal my second Super Bowl, so I commiserate with you. I hate that stadium, dude. I can't stand
Arizona?
Can't stand it. I was at that Super Bowl. My soul got snatched. It was terrible.
Yeah, it's very far away, too, which was a pain in the ass to get to from anywhere in Phoenix or Scottsdale.
There you go. That's a long flight home, huh?
Yeah. I live in LA, thank God, so it was only an hour flight home. But if I was living in Philadelphia, man, what is that one? The Twilight Zone, where the fucking real crazy things on the wing, hanging off?
Yeah, that's the best one, man. That's Patrick Mahomes,
motherfucking screaming, hanging on to the fucking wing and shit, man.
Right, that would have been me, man.
I got another one for you guys. Check this one out real quick. So this one's about alcohol. So the debate between cannabis and alcohol, right? So now there's as we start inching closer to federal legalization. There's more and more research out. There's more and more topics that are coming up about, the disparity between alcohol, and reports are coming out between the states that are legalized with cannabis. Interesting report. I want to see what you think about this, Kelly. Shout out to Marijuana Moment for this article. It says cannabis will gain millions of consumers over alcohol, with sales hitting $37 billion by 2027. This is from an investment bank project called TD Cowen. They did their own market research. They're a multinational investment bank. They said that now they're actually considering cannabis as a formidable competitor to alcohol. They project over 20 million more people between now and 2027 will pick up cannabis for the first time and use it for a day-to-day basis as opposed to alcohol. Furthermore, they also say that over the next 5 years, as booze will lose a couple of million users over that span. So as cannabis is gaining 20 million, every 5 years, alcohol will be dropping about 1 million users, not permanently, but on a regular basis. The current industry nationwide sales for cannabis is $29 billion for 2023. That's 11% of what the alcohol industry brought in this year.
Okay, I was just about to say. So, yeah, I do have some problems with what this bank is saying. Definitely, I do. But continue. I got a few more little knowledge nuggets for you before I get your opinion. Mm-hmm. So cannabis is expected to grow by 7% every year for the next 5 years, year over year. The average number of drinks for people in cannabis legalized states is significantly lower than people that are living in non-legal states. All yours, Kelly. Yeah, I mean, so I think their research is making a lot of assumptions, like probably too many, way too many. So first and foremost, I think we'd all agree on this call that, a big portion of that number, right, is really just the inflated value of cannabis and the lack of operational efficiencies from producer and processor. I mean, once the alcohol industry is in a place where, the big, really large companies can get involved. When we're talking about cannabis at that level, first of all, I don't think you'll see pricing as high as it is right now. I don't think you'll see pricing anywhere near as high as it is right now. So I would anticipate that the average consumer is probably worth less every year as cannabis develops, and not more every year. I mean, right now there's just a lot of things that are overpriced depending on which market you're in. And I don't know. I think cannabis has got a really big, it's a big hurdle to cross. Alcohol, just from a cultural standpoint, you consume alcohol while you eat food, right? So alcohol is served in restaurants. Alcohol is served in grocery stores. Alcohol is served in clubs. It's served in bars. It's served in strip clubs. It's served. You can practically find alcohol anywhere. Cannabis, I can't imagine that cannabis will be served in the same way that alcohol does, just because cannabis quite literally fills the air with smoke or vapor, right? So I don't see it breaking that barrier. I think the two will be sold differently forever. That being said, I would also say that, another big hurdle there is, dude, alcohol is so addictive that it can literally kill you if you stop drinking too quickly. I'm not saying that that's a good thing, but I'm saying that probably works in terms of for sales of alcohol, that probably works in their favor. That would mean that each consumer of alcohol is worth quite a bit more than each consumer of cannabis. There's only so much cannabis you can consume, theoretically. So Yeah, I don't agree. I don't agree with any part of that. I think it just assumes a very steady growth rate for cannabis, which I think we'll see ups and downs, and even well after national legalization. I think it assumes that people, consume cannabis in the same way that they consume alcohol, which I don't agree with at all. I think they're consumed differently.
Kelly, are you saying you putting this one in the Australia category? Because you know how we feel about Australia around these. Hey, Kyle, you don't realize
I won't put this.
We got a long-standing beef with Australia, bro. They've been
wait, hold on. I haven't heard this yet, so I would like to get a little bit of insight on Kelly's big beef with Australia.
Well, I mean, it's a beef that from one of their previous casts on here, and no, I wouldn't put it in that category, because I do think cannabis will grow, and it will continue to grow. And, as more and more products, after national legalization, if they reduce some of the regulations around, brand building and creating products, I do think that will open up the market a little bit. I just have a hard time believing that a drug that is not addictive, not physically addictive, is going to outsell a drug that is physically addictive, especially when the drug that is physically addictive is sold in public places and the drug that is not won't be. That, to me, that just something doesn't math there. I won't say it's quite Australia, because in 10, 15, 20 years, I don't know what the society is going to look like. Maybe culturally speaking, we are smoking in bars and restaurants and all that other kind of stuff. Maybe that will happen. I don't see it, but maybe it'll happen.
Have you guys gone? Have you guys attended any of the lounges that are available in places like Palm Springs? Have you had a chance to spend any time in one of those types of establishments?
I have. The one in San Fran.
Mm-hmm. You said they got one in San Fran?
Yeah, man. Shout out to, they are called.
You better make me sad, bro.
Something Coast. What's it called, Steve?
Barbary Coast.
Barbary Coast Coast Dispensary.
Right.
Kyle, I have some good news for you, brother. I don't know if you heard or not yet. Pennsylvania, the great state of Pennsylvania, the governor, Josh Shapiro, Democrat, he just signed a cannabis bill today. Did you hear about that?
I did not, man. That's good to hear. Please tell me it's going wreck in the state of Pennsylvania.
So Josh Shapiro just signed a bill to let medical cannabis grower and processors sell directly to patients. Also to allow current independent dispensaries to get cultivation permits. So this is the first time that they've made some significant progress towards it. I think one of our first episodes, we talked about how Pennsylvania
1 or 2 years out.
Yeah, they were ways away out from fully developing, and they were getting all of their citizens going across border states and buying it, and it was increasing the other states' tax revenue. So, as a fellow Pennsylvanian yourself, man, what's your first thoughts on this, man? Think it helps, or it's still one of those bullshit policies?
No, I mean, any progress helps. I mean, Pennsylvania has limited competition, which obviously, in any industry, that's not going to give the end consumer the best available product, because, competing against 5 people versus 500, like you see in California, the end result is the consumer is probably getting a little bit cheated, because of that lack of competition, that lack of innovation. Pennsylvania, they really, when they first got everything legalized, they really focused on all the medicinal value of the plant. And I felt like they kind of put themselves in a corner where, like, they weren't able to make any progress without having it tied medicinally to a health benefit. And me, man, I want people to, obviously, if there is medicinal value, go for that. But I also believe that adults should have the free right to inebriate themselves with a product that isn't addictive, that doesn't cause a tremendous amount of damage. And I feel like the way it affects the brain is in a lot more of a positive light than some of the other narcotics and drugs that are available in the state. People going to Jersey right now. Jersey is getting away with really high prices, not the highest quality products that I've seen. I mean, I think I mentioned to you guys, I walked out of a dispensary with a 2-gram distillate disposable, and it was $145 out the door with taxes.
What? No, you didn't mention that, bro. Good.
Oh, yeah. 2 grams?
What?
Yeah, the brick by Select. It's a 2-gram distillate disposable. Last time I was in Philadelphia, I had my wife go out to the dispensary in New Jersey, and with the taxes and everything else, out the door it was $145. And
that's I am like,
I opened that. Pennsylvania gets a lot. Anything that's going to increase the accessibility of cannabis is great for the state. Pennsylvania is one of the highest populated states in the country. That's why it's such an important swing state in every election. People don't realize that Pennsylvania has a lot of micro cities, which I don't see a lot in other states in this country, where you have about 4 or 5 cities that are 200,000 people plus. Like in that cities like Allentown, Lancaster, Erie, PA, these states that aren't major cities but have a big, a heavily dense population in those areas. I obviously want, Pennsylvania to do well. Pennsylvania is a lot like Washington. Yeah. Pennsylvania, if I had to take a look at the list, I don't have it up, but I believe Pennsylvania probably falls in between like 6 and 8, the highest populated states in the country. I believe it goes, California, Texas, Florida, and then Ohio and Pennsylvania are right up there. Ohio is another one of those states that has a lot of these small cities that people just don't think of because it's not Los Angeles or New York. But there's a lot of people living in those areas. I think that, in terms of everything that's happening with New Jersey, if you keep an eye on it, it's really moving slow. Jersey's the most heavily dense populated state in the country by per square mile. Up until about 3 years ago, and I haven't been keeping up with it as much, so I may be misspeaking about some of these things, but there was only about 35 dispensaries, 4 or 5 years ago in the state of New Jersey, which has millions and millions of people. So
Jersey is so expensive.
Yeah. The live in Jersey is expensive. Like there's also a lot of some other taxes that are involved. Like land tax is very expensive out there. That's also an issue. Where like if you're like outside New York, you're paying $20,000 a year just on your land. Like if you own a home, so it could get very costly. You can even get higher than that, I believe, in certain areas of New Jersey. So, and that's just just for having owning a house. It's like, oh, here's your $25,000 a year for owning a house in North Jersey, right outside New York City. So there's a lot going on. I obviously want Pennsylvania to keep getting better. There's a lot of great cultivation that happens in the state of New Jersey and the state of Pennsylvania. Believe it or not, New Jersey's known as the Garden State. So cultivation can be phenomenal there. I believe that again, I'm not fact checking this, but there's a lot of produce, tomatoes, other vegetables that are really concentrated, that are really grown well in that part of the country. There's a lot of rain. There's also a lot of sunshine. I know it sounds kind of counterproductive, but like you'll have your rainy season, but like then you'll have in the summer where you get in the height of June, July, and August. There's very rare rain, and when it does rain, it's because the humidity gets so high that it kind of forces rain to obviously percolate from that weather condition. Yeah. But Pennsylvania. I moved out to LA because nothing was happening on the East Coast 6 years ago to get in the cannabis industry. I'm so happy to see that things are progressing and taking off.
I love it, man. I love it.
Yeah, that was a lot. I'm sorry on this forum. I could talk all day. And I got
man. You got our ears. Hey, trust me, man. If it was something boring, we interrupt, man. It ain't no hush around here. We're like, all right, yeah, that's cool. But no, we all ears for that one, man. That was dope.
That's an interesting micro cities observation that I hadn't really thought of until you said that.
conceptualize that in my head. I'm like, is it just a bunch of Tri-Cities? Because Zach and I kind of live in an area like
it's
that.
like they're called like townships, right?
Well,
Okay.
these are actually these are actually cities. I mean, if you look at Ohio, you got off the top of your head, you got Cleveland, you got Cincinnati.
Yeah.
No,
Dayton,
you got.
Columbus,
I mean, there's a a lot. Columbus. These are like cities that have 150,000 plus people.
Oh yeah.
You add them up. If you got 8 to 10 of them, then you're dealing with a heavily populated state.
Right.
Yeah.
I love it.
One couple more things too, and then I think the game started at 5:15, right?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, cool. Yeah, we got time. All right. So, because this is good stuff. Now, I always write down cannabis topics just in case, because you never know. You can look up the news cycle for the day, and it'll be something completely different from yesterday. So, but yeah. So, a new tax foundation blueprint for cannabis suggests that it'll be better to tax it by potency than weight. So the prices in many states are doing basically by by the sale of it just by the weight right now. The report also suggests that nationwide cannabis legalization would generate $8.5 billion a year in each state's revenue if they would make that possible. So besides going off of the price of an eighth, they would say, hey, this is 30% THC, so we're going to add a little additional tax onto that ass, and you guys can make an extra, or whatever your extra tax is going to be, but you're making $8.5 billion off of that type of platform. Steve, we'll start with you, bro. What's your first thoughts on that when you hear that, man?
Man, it just sounds like they're going to be in our pockets again, man. That's what it sounds like to me. It's like we're getting shook down. That's what's about to happen. It sounds like, the more potent. I mean, Kelly, you know this, and Zach, you're no stranger. Everybody wants the high potency stuff. So the high ticket items that I'm destroying to your store are going to get chopped up even more. So I'm definitely on that side of the fence. I understand it from a macro view. You're going to generate more tax dollars. That's good for the feds. You're going to put out this $8.5 billion a state. I don't buy that either. What about these states that don't have anybody? North Dakota, South Dakota. Are you rolling that number into that? So, yeah, I'm gonna have to wait to see and get some more information on that one. But it sounds like just typical shakedown to me, man.
It's just. I gotta, what I would be interested to know is who consulted on that strategy. What information did they use, to really drive them in that direction in terms of strategy here? Because, what I've seen with taxes so far is that, most of them have been structured in such a way that makes me believe that the people who are responsible for them certainly don't understand how the cannabis economy really works. And so I would be afraid of a tax like that, because a tax like that, and frankly, something that's a little too heavy-handed there, all that's going to do is incentivize, effectively companies to just to fudge their goddamn their tests. Yeah. I mean, I don't, I obviously any American would know this, right? If a company has a way to wiggle out of a regulation to save money, what are they going to do? Well, in a business like cannabis, where it may not seem like it from the outside, but really, margins are actually pretty tight, and the companies that make the most money really are selling at scale and in extreme scale, right? So, it may seem from the outside that, that things are, that, multipliers are extremely high, but like I said, the margins are tight. So anything like this, if it's just a little too heavy-handed, basically everyone is just going to immediately, try to wiggle out of the regulation and start fudging all of their tests. That's just kind of how it will work. The same thing will go for, ultimately, if you put a tax on weight, what will a company do to wiggle out of a regulation, where you're taxing weight, right? Well, a company knows they're just going to say, oh, okay, well, are there some black market, access points somewhere? Is there somebody I can sell this to outside of the tax that I'm paying in this state? If the answer to that question is yes, and you can go into a smoke-filled room and shake somebody's hand, again, companies are just going to be incentivized to just go ahead and move that product, in a different way. So I would prefer, honestly, I'd prefer if regulators, if they consulted deeply with all parts of the cannabis industry before they really try to develop any new taxes. I mean, really at all. I think that would be better. Obviously, anybody in the cannabis industry is going to say, well, lower the tax, right? And there's a good reason why. And I think it's probably best if we listen to all these people. So,
Kyle, any thoughts on this, brother? What you think?
So, like you're saying, it's going to be based off a THC percentage, Zach. Is that what the new proposed?
Yep.
Right. Okay. And correct me if I'm wrong. There was driving a lot of the consumers' decision making right now is THC percentage, and it seems like those numbers have been hyper inflated to try to get consumers to buy the product. Correct.
Yep.
So what would stop anyone from going in the reverse direction, knowing that you'll get more taxed off a higher THC percentage, where we now tell the narrative that that's not important. The important part of picking a product or the quality of product, we change that narrative, and then you deflate those THC numbers to combat this taxing. I feel like you're probably going to see some of that behavior as well.
Yep.
Exactly.
I agree. Yeah. I agree. I mean, how many times have you tried some herb that's just 13% THC, and it's grown from a great cultivar, and it just blows your fucking mind because there's so many
every
other
time
things. You know what I'm saying? You're like, oh my God,
Right.
There's a ton of them out there. So those guys, I think, where they get the benefit from, because they'll start getting more people trying it. But then you have those guys that have put a lot of work into, hey, it costs a lot to grow that indoor. It's going to be 13%. And they're only going to tax them, so much on it, which means that maybe it may create a better access point for customers to be able to get better product too. But I think that there's going to be so much opportunity for manipulation that it won't even be even a thought. You know what I'm saying?
I feel like the big narrative now, Zach, is people talk about terpene profile. I was actually curious to find out if you are hearing consistent messaging up in Washington where don't base your decision off of THC percentage, base your decision off of, like you said, the knowing that you're getting from a reputable, cultivator, and then terpene profile.
Here's a crazy thing too. I'll touch on that because I don't really have the notes for that, but I was reading an article that I was going to add, and we'll talk about it next time we go live. But there's an article out there. So like I said, since we're getting inching closer and closer to legal federalization, being having it legal, we're starting to see more scientific reports coming out. So they have, like Kelly said, a synergistic crew. They have a processor. They have a lab. They basically bought this gigantic microscope of sorts to be able to look at more of the qualities of cannabis. And what they found is, and this is from, like I said, my loose brain trying to quote this shit, but the terpenes were all bullshit. Indica sativa did not get a quite denomination. What it is that they found another two formulas of molecules that were actually inside cannabis products. One of them being, it started with scat. And I remember it because it was like, oh, okay, scat, like, poop. And that's exactly it. It's the molecule that makes, when you take psilocybin mushrooms, that crappy taste. It's the same thing. They found that in spores on cannabis. And so that's what makes the funky smell or the piney smell is actually coming from that first. They found this through this fucking microscope shit. basically, or through like this process that everyone was involved in. I'll get that report, and I'll make it into like a short or something. But that one was crazy. But real quick, because I want to hear you guys in your entirety about what you guys think the game is going to consist of too. So in Portland, real quick, make sure if anybody in Portland or in YouTube land, push this out in the algorithm to Portland. Officials are seeking people to serve on the cannabis policy oversight team. So they're looking for any citizen that decides, hey, I want to be on this oversight committee. I think that, that's a good opportunity for a lot of folks to be heard, and they make sure that they made that announcement. A study just recently found that oil-based full-spectrum cannabis plant extracts is well tolerated and safe. So the potential benefits for it is improving disruptive behaviors and reducing anxiety in children with autism. So if they have an autism spectrum disorder or any of those related symptoms that they get anxiety from it, they say that, and this is a study, and it's not coming from those, with the A, Steve, Australia, man. I don't want to, get you riled up about it, but yeah, it didn't come from Australia. This is a study that said that oil-based full-spectrum cannabis plant extract can be able to help with some of those benefits. So I'll leave it at that. Kyle, I will pass the mic, like I said, to you, being our newcomer on here. Thank you so much for being on. He got his mic. I don't know if he got his volume on, but if you can be able to join in and tap in on these answers, number one, what do you think your score is, for the game tonight? What's your favorite, most memorable experience that you've ever had with a sports person, sports athlete? Did you ever have an interaction with someone that just changed your life in the sports realm? And then I'll move it to you, Steve. What you think, Cal? Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah, sorry about that. I actually had an incoming call. Hit me up there. Yes.
Oh, you're good. You're good. So the question is, one, what's your prediction for the score tonight? Who's going to win? What's your final score? Because there's going to be some bettors on here, some gamblers. You know what I'm saying? We can't do it in Washington, but, of course, people going to maybe use that as a reference. Number two, what's your favorite or most memorable interaction with the pro athlete, if you had any?
Excellent. Do you want me to go first?
Yes, sir.
All right. So game-wise, I honestly just think the Eagles are a really good team in my opinion. And I've been an Eagles fan when they've been shitty. I've been an Eagles fan when they've been average, and I've been, an Eagles fan of this latest run. And I just can't see them having 3 bad games in a row where they just aren't clicking on offense or clicking on defense, which is what you see in the last 2 weeks. They couldn't get anything going. I think they went 8 possessions in a row where they gave up a touchdown, which is just, that's completely mind-boggling. So I think that the Eagles get back on track. I think they're going to run the ball early. I think that they're going to establish that. They're going to try to, in my opinion, not necessarily have to keep the Seahawks offense off the field, but try to stay away from Metcalf and Lockett eating them up on the outside. And I think that they're going to end up winning the game 31-21. I think that the Seahawks are going to have trouble stopping the run, which is going to allow the Eagles to open up the pass. And I think that they're going to score early, and I think they're going to keep that momentum. But I would like to see a big improvement on defense. That 21 points they give up, I hope that it's 21 points that happen. As an Eagles fan, hope that those 21 points happen at the end of the game when the offense is like playing more of that 2-minute drill and the Eagles defense is a little bit more lax. That's my prediction, 31-21 on the game. A time that I've met an athlete, I've met a good amount of athletes. I was on the Phillies grounds crew when I was a kid. When I was in high school, specifically in Philadelphia, I was on the Phillies grounds crew. And I met Dusty Baker. And I've met a lot of athletes. They said some witty things to me. But Dusty Baker came out of the dugout, and he did a big yawn. He went, "Oh!" And he just scratched his nuts real hard. And he said to me, I know it's going to rain today because when I woke up, my cock was throbbing. So, and I said, dude, that was the funniest shit I think I've ever heard anyone ever say to me, let alone. Yeah. And I was only like 16 years old at the time. And I remember like it was yesterday, probably the funniest moment I've ever had with a professional athlete. Dusty Baker being a manager, but one of the coolest people I think to ever live in the history of baseball.
Oh my God. I got to follow that shit?
Real quick, Kyle. So we have this thing. We have this thing of some people want us to be found. Some other people don't want to be found. If you want to be found, go ahead and tell the people where they can find you at.
Yes, my company's Finished Goods. You can find us on finishedgoods.com. We also have a Instagram handle where we promote some of the products that we sell between packaging and hardware. That would be at @finishedgoods_ at the end. And I had a blast. Really appreciate you having me on, Zach. This is a lot of fun for
man.
me. Yeah.
Yeah, man. We'll see how late the game goes. Maybe we'll do a little recap or whatever. But we'll check in with the folks regardless and have you hop back on, man. It's been an absolute pleasure, brother. Thank you, man. Steve, what do you think, bro?
Man,
same question applies to you, brother. Same question applies to you.
Yeah, I think our backs are up against it, man. We have to win this game. The Eagles are up in the penthouse right now as far as the season goes. We need to win this. Our crowd's going to be on fire. Historically, we do great with Pete. It's been a minute since we lost to Philly, but we haven't lost to this version of Philly. This is a completely different animal. So I'm not as confident as I normally would be, but I got us 31-28 in a tight one. And I just feel like, man, if Jalen's playing and he's as sick as they were saying he is on another jet so he didn't get the rest of the team infected, it's going to be 33 degrees in the rain, man. It's going to be cold and wet, bud. And I got to imagine you can shoot him up with all the cortisone you want, but it's that's got to be a big factor. So I got it 31-28 in a tight one. We got to win this, man. There's no other option for us right now to squeak into a wild card. And Philly does too. I mean, you guys have the division on the line. You could have the number 1 overall spot. So, you guys have a lot to fight for too. So it should be a great game. As far as my favorite sports memory, it's not quite as cool as Kyle's, man. But as Kyle said, man, I've got to meet a lot of athletes, professional athletes and players, and hang out with them in social settings. But for me, much like Kyle, man, I've been a Seahawks fan my whole life, and I've seen the worst parts of this team when I was around, when we were just kind of average during the Hasselbeck years, and then what it is now. And for me, I was lucky enough to hang out with Marshawn Lynch, Golden Tate, and a bunch of the other players after the Super Bowl parade at the Lucky Strike in Bellevue, and that's just one of the best nights of my life, man. With Curry, he's with these guys right here, Infused. He's got he's a huge Seahawks fan. We got the 12 on the back of this pin.
Shout out to Infused.
Yeah, man. And if you want to find me, I'm with Good Karma Group. We're your hardware specialists, and love being in that space, man.
Well, I think I don't know. I won't give my predictions on it, man. I think it's too close to home for me to give my predictions to both of you guys, man. I never like to be in the middle of between two of my homies having a dogfight. I just can't do it. I know you guys was itching for me to give you a score, but I can't do it to you. I can't do it. I'm just that guy.
Right.
I think it's going to be a close game, though. I'm going to be looking very closely to every single third down that's going to happen. I think that third down is going to be the most pivotal moments. It sounds like statistically that's where both teams have struggled and have gotten some of their advantages, like on the Eagles. So the Seahawks got a lot to prove. And with Kyle saying that the Eagles haven't had much interceptions turnovers in the last couple weeks. I think that there's going to be a lot of turnovers from Geno going in there hobbled. He's going to be injured. He's going to be making some mistakes. He's probably going to be a little medicated. Hopefully not. I hope that he's, all the health. But I think that going into the game, he's probably going to be a little busted up, and he's going to make some mistakes. So I think there's going to be probably, I would say, 2 turnovers from the Seahawks. And I think the running game is going to be popping from the Eagles in the middle of the field. They're going to be running right up the middle. So Wagner's going to get probably about 15 tackles in this game. And it's pouring down raining too, fellas. I don't know if you guys seen it. It's going to be one of them rock 'em, sock 'em type of games, man. It's an old school game.
I didn't realize it was pouring, Zach. Yeah.
Cold and wet,
Dog,
baby.
it's going down, man. It's going down out there right now. Yeah, it's going to be good. But no, you guys can find me right here. As always, like I said, I appreciate our guest Kyle for coming on, giving his insights, great stories. Steve, thank you as well, brother, for coming on, giving your insight and great stories. Kelly, I know he probably had to cut off. And then also, man, we got to get Sean back on, man. We got to give him a shout out too. And maybe we'll bring him on for an after show, see what he's thinking. But I know he's probably feeding babies right now, so it's all good. But anyway, like I said, best of luck to both teams. I'm looking forward to a good game, some good food. I got fajitas waiting on me inside the house. But yeah, until next time, hopefully you guys have a good time. And this is what I'm going to be doing right here.
I want to get higher than the motherfucker. Say it again. Somebody roll the weed. It's my song. I want to get higher than the motherfucker. Somebody roll the weed. I want to get higher than a motherfucker. Say it again. Somebody roll the weed. I want to get higher than a motherfucker. Can you tell me what you want to get? I want to get higher.